Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm Professor Dr. Qotb. Today, our session is about anatomy of the larynx. Really, it is a difficult subject and it needs to listen carefully and concentrate well in this anatomy. We should start with a general idea about the larynx. The larynx is about 50 millimeters in males and 40 millimeters in female. It extends from cervical C3 to cervical 6. It is in the form of a funnel shape. يبقى الاناتومي اوف ذا لارynx very difficult، صعب جدا، محتاج ان انت تستوعبه، فمحتاج منك تركيز عالي وفوكسنج على قد ما تقدر. We should start with the framework. The larynx is formed of a framework of cartilage. This cartilage is connected by ligaments, muscles, and joints in order to move. And this framework, the laryngeal cartilage with muscles and ligaments and joint are lined by mucous membrane as we are going to see. تعالوا نبدأ بالcartilage. Let's start with the cartilage. We have single cartilage and pair cartilage. What about the single cartilages? The number one is the laryngeal cartilage or the thyroid cartilage. It is in the form of a lamina. There is two lamina, one right and one left lamina, in the form of an open book. أكنه كتاب مفتوح ممسوك من قدام وسايب من ورا. Attached anteriorly and are apart from each other posteriorly. This lamina has a very prominent anterior part which is called the Adam's apple, which is prominent in male more than female. أكتر حتة بارزة ونشوفها حتى في الرقبة بتاعة الناس بالذات رفيعين. It is evident in the thin people. Okay? This cartilage lamina has a posterior edge. This posterior edge is elongated superiorly and inferiorly to form a cornu, superior cornu and inferior cornu. So this cartilage is connected anteriorly and are separated from each other posteriorly. It has right one and left one. Has a upper edge and a lower edge. Its lateral surface here shows an oblique line for attachment of some muscles as we are going to see. Let us see this video. Forgive me. Can you see? This is the laryngeal cartilage here. See it again. It has posterior, yes, upper border and lower, upper cornu and lower cornu. These are cartilages connected anteriorly here. These are the lateral surface of this cartilage, and this is the Adam apples here. Okay, let's go the second one, which is the cricoid cartilage. The cricoid cartilage is a signet ring like this. أكنها حلقة. It is small anteriorly and far large posteriorly. حتة صغيرة من قدام وتخينة من ورا. It is a complete ring. A complete ring like this. It is a signet ring. Let us see it. Here, anteriorly and posteriorly. Large posteriorly and very small anteriorly. See it again. Small anteriorly and large posteriorly. Okay? This cricoid cartilage has a facet here for articulation with a cartilage. We're going to see it later on. It's called arytenoid cartilage. And a lateral facet here for articulation with the inferior cornu of the laryngeal cartilage. Do you remember the laryngeal cartilage here? Yes. The inferior cornu with the cricoid cartilage. Okay? That's it. It has an upper border here and lower border. Here it forms the cricoid to the thyroid, the cricothyroid joint, and here the cricoarytenoid joint articulation with the arytenoid. Here again the arytenoid cartilage, and here the cricothyroid cartilage. And this is the lateral aspect of the cricoid cartilage, which is narrow anteriorly and very wide posteriorly. Again, it is a complete ring. Then we go to the third one, The third one, the third single cartilage is the epiglottis. What's the epiglottis? It is in the form of a leaf-like structure here. It has a narrow pedicle here connected to the inner surface of the thyroid cartilage and goes up posteriorly to the thyroid cartilage, then posteriorly to the hyoid bone. It has a free edge posterior to the base of the tongue. It has two surfaces here. Surface here, a long surface which faces the laryngeal inlet here, and an anterior surface here which faces the tongue, the hyoid bone, and the thyroid cartilage, as we're going to see. Okay, let us see this video. Here, a leaf, narrow pedicle inferiorly and a broad superiorly, and as you can see, it has pits, small holes within this cartilage, which connects the posterior laryngeal surface to the anterior surface. The epiglottis here, can you see it? Projects behind the base of the tongue here. It has a blind sac here between the tongue and the epiglottis called the vallecula. Here I'm going to talk to you about it. So the epiglottis has a long laryngeal surface facing the larynx posteriorly and a very narrow anterior surface facing the posterior base of the tongue, and it's called the lingual surface of the epiglottis. Here the same. This is a cross-lateral section. The epiglottis here, its anterior surface here is the part which faces the posterior part of the tongue, and here the vallecula, and this is the laryngeal surface which faces the laryngeal inlet. It has a free upper border here, and down inferiorly it is attached to the inner surface or the anterior surface, the inner surface of the laryngeal cartilage, that just above the origin of the vocal cords here. This is the posterior aspect. You can see the epiglottis here. It has small bits, and here is its attachment to the posterior surface of the laryngeal cartilage. There are the single cartilage, the thyroid cartilage, the cricoid cartilage, and the epiglottis. Now we go to the paired cartilages. It is called the arytenoid cartilage, and you should try to pronounce it because it is difficult. اسمها ايه؟ اسمها arytenoid cartilage. It is in the form of a pyramid structure. Okay? It has a base like this, apex like this, and three surfaces. It sits on, yes, on the cricoid cartilage, on the posterior part of the cricoid cartilage. Here, it has a facet here for articulation of the cricoid to form what's called cricoarytenoid joint. It has an anterior process here, the origin of the vocal cord, and it has a medial surface which faces its opposite side here, its opposite one. It is a transverse section, lateral surface, posterior, and medial, which faces its opposite side. Here is an inner surface, and it's a vocal process which gives attachment to the vocal cord. It's apex, and here is the lateral process, or the process for articulation with the cricoid cartilage. The arytenoid cartilage here has a muscular process here for attachment of some muscles, as we are going to see. The apex here has two small cartilages which are called the corniculates and the cuneiform cartilage, and they have an irrelevant function for you. Let's see this short video to understand more. This is the cricoid cartilage, and here the arytenoid base. Here medial surface faces each other. Base articulates with the cricoid cartilage, muscular process, and anterior vocal process for attachment of the cricoid cartilage. And they sit on yes, the cricoid cartilage, which has a large lamina posterior and a small anterior part like here. Can you see it? With the epiglottis here, which has its attachment just above the origin of the vocal cords in the inner surface of the thyroid cartilage. Okay, let's see this in conclusion, a whole short video. The thyroid cartilage here, the hyoid bone. Here the cricoid, number 1, complete trunk. Here the arytenoid, above the cricoid, 2 arytenoids facing each other, base, lateral process, apex, apex. Here are the thyroid cartilage, 2 lamina, superior cornu, inferior cornu, Adam's apple where they are attached anteriorly. The hyoid bone, which is anatomically related to the larynx but pathological is not, so we do not speak about it. And this is the last one, the epiglottis, which is attached anteriorly in the inner surface of the thyroid cartilage above the vocal cord. Now, this is another video. We can see it also. It is very clear from the internet. Yes, the cricoid cartilage, arytenoid cartilage, inferior cornu here, and this is the arytenoid cartilage which moves within the thyroid cartilage above the cricoid cartilage. Okay, now we goes to what attach these ligaments to each other, these cartilages to each other. Let's see. Number 1, the ligaments and some membranes. It is very easy to understand it. Number 1, there is a ligament here from the thyroid cartilage to the cricoid cartilage. It's called cricothyroid ligament. Actually, it is from the upper surface here of the cricoid cartilage. It should be to the lower surface or the lower edge here of the thyroid cartilage, but actually it's anterior part only which is attached to the lower border of the thyroid cartilage. The rest of it goes deep to the thyroid cartilage, as we are going to see here. The upper border of the cricoid to the lower border of the thyroid cartilage just anteriorly, while this part goes deep to the thyroid cartilage, as we are going to see, the cricothyroid ligament. Then, from the upper border of the thyroid cartilage to the lower border of the hyoid bone, it's called thyrohyoid membrane. Actually, from the upper border of the thyroid to the upper border of the hyoid as it goes deep to the hyoid bone. This membrane is very important because it is pierced by the supralaryngeal nerve and vessels from here. It goes from the upper border to the upper border of the hyoid bone, and there is a small bursa here. Next, we will see the cricothyroid ligament and the thyrohyoid membrane. Let's see them. Here, from the upper border of the cricoid, yes, to the lower border of the thyroid here, yes, sometimes it continues superiorly here. And there is the thyrohyoid membrane. Thyrohyoid membrane and cricothyroid ligament. Can you see it? It goes up, deep to the thyroid cartilage to the lower border of the vocal cords. Let's see what's next. The epiglottis. The epiglottis is attached to the thyroid cartilage here, the hyoid bone here, and the tongue above. To the thyroid cartilage, its origin, it is the glossothyroid or thyroepiglottic ligament here, because the cartilage is not connected directly to the cartilage. Here, to the hyoid bone by the hyoepiglottic ligament. Simple and easy. But to the tongue, it is connected by 3 glossoepiglottic ligaments. 3. This is the posterior part of the base of the tongue, and there is the tip of the epiglottis, which is here. There is at the epiglottis 1 median and 2 lateral glossoepiglottic ligaments. Here the mucosa covers the tip of the epiglottis, and is enfolded in a blind sac to the posterior part of the base of the tongue to form two blind shallow spaces called the vallecula, and the single one is called the vallecula. Okay, so the glottis, epiglottis, is connected to the tongue with three glossoepiglottic ligaments. Now we go to the part between the cricoid cartilage and the trachea. It's called the cricotracheal ligament. Actually, it is in the form of a circular membrane connected to the upper border of the first tracheal ring to the lower border of the cricoid cartilage here, but actually it is tough and it's called ligament. And remember, between each tracheal ring, yes, there is also a ligament or a membrane connects the two tracheal rings that near each other to each other. Okay? Now we go to the one is difficult one. Try to understand it and focus with it, please. There is a membrane here. Yes, a membrane from the upper border of the cricoid cartilage here. Then it ascends upwards deep to the thyroid cartilage until it reaches the vocal process here of the arytenoid cartilage. Here it is folded upon itself to form a tough ligament which is attached from the vocal process of the arytenoid to the deep surface of the thyroid cartilage. So it is actually a triangular one. It has a lower border here attached to the upper border of the cricoid, a free upper border which is condensed to form the vocal cord, yes, and has a membrane which is deep to the thyroid cartilage and connected anteriorly to the cricothyroid ligament. Okay, this is called the conus elasticus, or the crico from the cricoid to the vocal cord, the cricovocal ligament. It's very important to understand it. Again, here is the arytenoid and here is the vocal ligament, and there is the conus elasticus or the cricovocal ligament from the upper border of the cricoid cartilage and ascends upward deep to the thyroid cartilage to be condensed and have a free upper border which is called the vocal ligament, while here is the cricotracheal ligament. Yes. Again, this is a cut section and is looked from posterior, the epiglottis, and here is the cricoid cartilage and the tracheal rings. Can you see? From the upper border of the cricoid cartilage, this conus elasticus ascends upward, and its upper part is condensed to form the vocal ligament or the cru ligament here, while it is covered by mucosa. Okay? Can we see it here on this video to understand it more? Yes, let's see. Can you imagine this? Here, sorry. Okay, let's stop here. There is the upper part of the conus elasticus here. It is condensed to form the vocal ligament, and this is the whole conus elasticus attached inferiorly to the upper border of the cricoid cartilage. And here is the thyroid cartilage, which is removed in order to understand it. Can you imagine? This the vocal ligaments open and closes attached to the conus elasticus. Okay, we go to the next, yes, and more difficult one. Let's try to understand it. Here the laryngeal inlet, the epiglottis anteriorly, the arytenoid and the cricoid cartilage posteriorly, while the thyroid cartilage on both sides laterally. Here this should be as a form of a tube. So there is a membrane here which connects the lateral surface here, the lateral edge of the epiglottis, to the lateral edge here of the arytenoid cartilage to let the laryngeal inlet become as a form of a tube. It has an anterior wall, posterior wall. It should have two lateral walls. So it is the quadrangular membrane. So it extends from the free border here of the epiglottis to the lateral border here of the arytenoid cartilage. Let us see it. This is a cut section. It's seen from slightly behind and slightly laterally. Again, here's the conus elasticus from the upper border of the cricoid here to the vocal ligament, which represents the upper part of the conus elasticus. While it's here the epiglottis, and here is the arytenoid. Yes. So there is a membrane which connects the free lateral border of the epiglottis to the arytenoid. So it has a free upper border here, and it also has a free lower border, which actually is condensed to form what's called a false vocal cord. So it is connected to the lateral border of the cricoid, the arytenoid, to the lateral border of the epiglottis, to the arytenoid. It has a free upper border and a free lower border. This upper border is called the aryepiglottic fold because it is in the form of a membrane, and it contains a muscle called aryepiglottic muscle and covered by mucosa. Let's see again. The tracheal rings, and here is the cricoid cartilage. And what is this? This is the conus elasticus, and its upper part is the true cord or the vocal ligament. While this is the epiglottis, can you see it? Yes. And here is the membrane which attaches to the lateral free border of the epiglottis to the arytenoid, which is not present here in this section, while this is the quadrangular membrane. It has a free upper border covered by mucosa. It's called aryepiglottic fold, and has a free lower border which is condensed to form a ligament, which is the false vocal ligament. And there is a space here between the false and the true, and this is covered by mucosa here. This mucosa covers the true ligament and goes inside, which means laterally, then comes as a blind sac, and then comes medially again to cover the false cord, and then ascends superiorly to cover what? To cover the quadrangular membrane, until here the aryepiglottic fold, which turns again laterally to cover it. There is again the same picture. Let's see here again. This is the aryepiglottic fold, section, lateral section, arytenoid and epiglottis. So it has a free upper border and a free lower border. We can see it in another way. This is the cricoid cartilage, and here is, yes, arytenoid, cricoid, and there is what? Yes, the conus elasticus. Excellent. And here what's it, which is cut here? The vocal ligament. Top here is the quadrangular membrane, which extends from the epiglottis to the false cord here. And this is the blind sac. We have talked about it. It connected to the arytenoid cartilage to the free lateral border of the epiglottis, and there is the what? The aryepiglottic fold. Okay. This is an easy way. What's the vocal ligament? It has been said before. It is the upper part of the conus elasticus. Here it's connected to the vocal process of the arytenoid cartilage to the inner surface of the thyroid cartilage, from the vocal process to the inner surface, just below the level of origin of the epiglottis. Okay, what's the vocal ligament here? Attached from the vocal process of the arytenoid here to the inner surface of the thyroid cartilage here, and this is the same. They are connected anteriorly to each other to form what's called an anterior commissure. Here, the vocal process of the arytenoid, and this is the vocal ligament here, and this is the conus elasticus down with this the cricoid cartilage. Okay, the larynx is lined by mucosa. This mucosa forms some folds. What's these folds? Let us see them. I've told you that there is ligaments between the epiglottis and the tongue, the glossoepiglottic ligaments. So the mucosa covered this one, then goes inside to form a blind sac called the vallecula, then ascends to cover the second ligament, and goes inside to form a blind sac to the vallecula, and then the lateral one. So there are three mucosal folds here, which covers the three glossoepiglottic ligaments. forming the follicle between. Then the epiglottic fold. This is the mucosa which ascends to cover the quadrangular membrane and the edge which is connected from the epiglottis to the arytenoid, which also contains a muscle inside called epiglottic muscle. So this is the fold of mucosa which cover this part, and clinically we call it epiglottic fold. Then we go to the false cord. If you remember, here the mucosa covered the quadrangular membrane and formed the epiglottic fold. Then covers what? Covers the false ligament here, which is the lower part of the quadrangular membrane. This goes lateral to form a blind sac, and then comes again to cover what? To cover the true vocal cord. Here it's called the true vocal cord because it covers also a muscle inside, which is the vocalis or the thoracoarytenoid muscle, while there is no muscle here, so it's called the false cord. Then goes deep to cover the conus elasticus and lines the cricoid and the trachea. This blind sac here is called the saccule, yes, which ascends also laterally to the quadrangular membrane. As you can imagine, this space, it's a blind space. The true cords here is the vocal ligament and the thyroarytenoid muscle covered by mucosa, while the false cord is just a ligament which is covered by mucosa. The true vocal cords here, again, here, a ligament with a muscle, while only a ligament here in the false cord. They meet anteriorly to form the anterior commissure. And here is the saccule, a blind sac. The mucosa covers the two, then goes laterally to form a sac, then comes again medially to cover the false cord. And here is the sac, the saccule, which is opened like this. It is very important. The sac is very, very important because it helps moving the vocal cords and moving of the cartilage freely. The saccule here can be seen like this. Okay, here we look to the larynx in the lateral section. We imagine that the false cord is just above the vocal cord, the true cord. Actually, yes, it is above the vocal cord. Yes, it is above. But while we see the larynx, as you're going to see the normal part, it is not actually like this. Can we see the laryngeal spaces? Where are the spaces? We have a space called the pre-epiglottic space between the anterior surface of the epiglottis and the thyrohyoid membrane. This is called the pre-epiglottic space. Actually, it is very important because it is rich in lymphatics. Suppose we have tumor here on the laryngeal surface of the epiglottis, it can go through the pets here within the epiglottis to reach the pre-epiglottic space, which is the rich in lymphatics. It can lead to spread of the tumor cells to the draining lymph nodes and can change the stage of the tumor. While we have, yes, here is the pre-epiglottic space. While you have something else called the para-epiglottic space or the paraglottic space. What's the paraglottic space? It is lateral to the quadrangular membrane here, between the quadrangular membrane and the thyroid cartilage here. The paraglottic space here. Sorry, this spelling is wrong. Yes, it's called the paraglottic space. So it is between the quadrangular membrane and the thyroid cartilage here. The quadrangular membrane and the thyroid cartilage here. Yes. It is medial to the thyroid cartilage and lateral to the quadrangular membrane. Actually, this is also a very important space because extension of the tumor, of the laryngeal tumor to this space can change the stage of the tumor from early stage to a late one. Remember that this paraglottic space is very important because here, can you imagine? This is the quadrangular membrane and this is the thyroid cartilage, false cord, true cord, saccule. And here The early epiglottic fold. Yes. A sac, blind sac here. We are going to see it in the pharynx while we are discussing the anatomy of the pharynx. It's called the pyriform fossa. So the paraglottic space here, it's lateral border, it's lateral border of the thyroid, medial border of the quadrangular membrane, inferiorly the saccule, and superiorly the pyriform fossa. This is a very important anatomy to imagine. So this is a difficult space to understand. The laryngeal inlet and cavity. This is an easy one. The laryngeal inlet here, from the epiglottis to the vocal cords. Then we classify the larynx into, clinically, it's not anatomical actually, area between the vocal cords, it's called the glottic area. An area above the level of the vocal cords, mean the false cord and the mucosa covering the epiglottis, it's called supraglottic area. And from the level of the vocal cords downwards here, covering the subglottic area, and here the cricoid cartilage, is called the subglottis. The laryngeal mucosa, the laryngeal muscles. Muscles of the larynx are very easy to understand. It comes from an origin to an insertion, and it's so easy. Number one, a muscle from the cricoid to the arytenoid. So what's its name? It's cricoarytenoid muscle. While we have two cricoarytenoid muscles. One from the lateral aspect of the cricoid to the arytenoid, so it's called lateral cricoarytenoid. And another one from the posterior surface of the cricoid to the arytenoid, so it's called a posterior cricoarytenoid muscle. We have one muscle between the two arytenoids, so it's called an interarytenoid muscle. We have another one from the arytenoid to the epiglottis. It has also an extension here. It's called artery epiglotticus, or the artery epiglottic muscle. We have another one from the thyroid cartilage to the arytenoid, which is called thyroarytenoid muscle, or the vocalis muscle. We have one small muscle here outside the larynx, which is called cricothyroid muscles. These muscles are called the intrinsic laryngeal muscles. They are different from the external laryngeal muscles within the neck, because they have functionally inside the neck. Even this muscle, which is outside the larynx, the cricothyroid, it's considered one of the internal laryngeal muscles. They have a one nerve supply, which is completely different from nerve supply of the muscles of the neck. Let's see what is the action of these muscles. Either they, try to co-focus please with me, either they let the vocal cords go laterally to open the laryngeal inlet, and this is called abduction. Take care of this. It's called abduction. While lets the vocal cords goes medially to meet each other to close the laryngeal inlet, it's called adduction, to add the vocal cords to each other. The only muscle which is abductor, which can open the airway, it's called the posterior cricoarytenoid. It's a muscle of life which can open the vocal cord, the laryngeal inlet. If this muscle is paralyzed, the vocal cords cannot be open, so the airway will not be open, because if this muscle is only paralyzed alone, the other muscles act to adduct the vocal cords, to close the vocal cords like this. The lateral cricoarytenoid, thyroarytenoid, interarytenoid, and cricothyroid muscles. So this muscle is very, very important muscle. Let's see this one. Look, here the arytenoid moves on the cricoid through the cricoarytenoid joint by the action of the lateral cricoarytenoid muscle here to close the vocal cords for adduction. Okay, let's see this video also. It's very important video. By the way, all these videos are from the internet. They are not belonging to me. Can you see this action? Yes. The laryngeal cartilage moves forwards and backwards. All the laryngeal cartilage to straighten or stretch the vocal cord anteriorly, and this is called tension, and this is the action of the cricothyroid muscle, or moves the thyroid cartilage posteriorly to shorten the vocal cord or to relax the vocal cord, and this is the action of the thyroarytenoid muscle. Let's see this. Strengthen the vocal cords here and shorten the vocal cords. Tension and relaxation. This is the second movement. Now we go to the nerve supply. These muscles are supplied motor by the superior laryngeal nerve and the recurrent laryngeal nerve. They are both branched from the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve number 10, the cranial nerve number 10, supply whole muscles of the larynx, either through the superior laryngeal nerve or the recurrent laryngeal nerve. The superior laryngeal nerve goes through the thyroid membrane here, and it supplies only the cricothyroid muscle. While the recurrent laryngeal nerve, and you should remember, it turns within the neck or the chest, it goes back to supply all other muscles, the posterior cricoretinoid, lateral cricoretinoid, thyroarytenoid, and enteroretinoid. For example, if there is paralysis here of the recurrent laryngeal nerve as a whole, so all the muscles supplied by recurrent laryngeal nerve will not work. What is the left? The left is the superior laryngeal nerve, which supplies the cricothyroid. What is the action of the cricothyroid? Adduct the vocal cords. So the vocal cords will be adducted to the midline. And this, if this condition occurs bilaterally, so the vocal cords will be adducted bilaterally and the patient will not respire. Yes. On the contrary to this, if the superior laryngeal nerve alone is not functioning, is paralyzed, so the recurrent laryngeal nerve will supply all these muscles, so the patient will function normally. Normally what? Abduction and adduction. While this action with tension relaxation will be affected. Then, what is about the sensory nerve supply? The level of the vocal cords to above, which is the supraglottic part, yes, above the level of the vocal cords, they have the sensory nerve supply also from the superior laryngeal nerve, which perforates the thyroid membrane. While from the level of the vocal cords and downwards to the subglottic area, they have a sensory nerve supply also by the recurrent laryngeal nerve. And you should remember and understand, if the patient loses the sensation of the superior laryngeal nerve, that's will occur. Yes, they will lose the sensation here, and this patient might aspirate and might suffocate because the mucosa here will not have a sensation to have the reflex cough, as we're going to see in the function of the larynx. We should understand that the recurrent laryngeal nerve on the right side, it recurs around the side subclavian artery on the right side here in the neck, while on the left side it goes to the chest and turns around the arch of the aorta to come back again. So if you have a problem here with the recurrent laryngeal nerve here, this problem mostly within the neck. If you have a left recurrent laryngeal nerve problem, we should search also within the upper part of the chest. Now the blood supply is very important. You should understand it. It is also all within the external carotid artery, which supplies the superior thyroid artery and the superior laryngeal nerve. While in the lower part we have the subclavian artery, which gives the thyrocervical trunk to the inferior thyroid artery to the inferior laryngeal nerve. Lymph drainage here is very, very important because if you are going to speak about tumors, you should understand what is the lymph drainage of these sites. The supraglottic area usually drains to the upper deep cervical lymph nodes, while the subglottic area usually drains to the delphi lymph nodes, the prelaryngeal, pretracheal, and then to the lower deep cervical lymph nodes. While, which is very, very, very important, the glottic area, it does not drain to whether the upper or the lower deep cervical because it has no lymphatics. So malignant tumors of the vocal cords are curable diseases if they are treated very early. Again, the laryngeal mucosa, it is the respiratory one. It is the pseudocolumnar ciliated epithelium here, which covers the whole epiglottis, yes, and the whole laryngeal inlet here to the vocal cords, which turns to a stratified, yes, non-stratified squamous epithelium. Then it becomes again columnar epithelium below the level of the vocal cords. Then the laryngeal mucosa, important to understand it, especially on the level of the vocal cords. The laryngeal mucosa here is loose. It has a space here deep to the laryngeal mucosa. It's called the larynx space, and this space is very important because in chronic inflammation it can collect some gelatinous material here. It's called larynx edema. Then the vocal ligament and the vocalis muscle. Now we'd see the normal laryngoscopic appearance because all laryngeal cartilage, laryngeal ligaments, laryngeal muscles, and laryngeal spaces are not seen clinically. Actually, we should understand it and try to imagine it. While clinically, if we have a clinical examination of the larynx, we can see what? We can see here the base of the tongue, then the epiglottis, and here between the tongue and the epiglottis, the two valleculae and the three glossoepiglottic ligaments. Then the aryepiglottic fold, yes, aryepiglottic fold. Then the two arytenoids covered by mucosa. And here is the quadrangular membrane covered by mucosa here, which is called the ventricle. And this is the lower part here is the false cord here, this one. It is not actually seen clinically. Then the true vocal cords, which is the yellow one because it is a tough ligament, yes, and there is the subglottic area. We cannot see the saccule because it is deep between this false cord and this true cord. It is not seen clinically. And remember, this false cord actually is above the true cord, but when we see it from above, as if they are behind, besides each other. Clinically, yes, this is a normal clinical picture, not a diagram. There is here why the vocal cords are, yes, adducted to each other. True vocal cords, here the vocal cord, and here inside the saccule, here is what's called the ventricle, and here's the epiglottis, and here is the upper epiglottic folds, right and left, arytenoid, interarytenoid area, and this is called the piriform fossa between the aryepiglottic fold and the quadrangular membrane and the lateral thyroid cartilage here. Deep to this piriform fossa is can you remember? Yes, the paraglottic space, and here is the piriform fossa of the other side, and here is the posterior wall of the pharynx, and here will open the cricopharyngeus muscle down to the esophagus. Here during respiration, during abduction, cords to false cord here, yes, arytenoid here, piriform fossa right and left. Let's see this in an anatomical way. This is a normal patient. He's tried to phonate, yes, true vocal cords moving. Here is the false cord, arytenoid, anterior commissure, arytenoid right and left. Sorry, this is the epiglottis, piriform fossa, and here is the last part of the hypopharynx here with the entrance of the esophagus. Can you see? The patient takes breath inside, inspires air, then during expiration, during exhalation, the vocal cords vibrate in order to produce that sound which is ah, ah, ah. And that's all. Now I'm going to give you another session about the function of the larynx. Thank you for